Welcome in. I'm glad you joined me this evening. My name is Coach Hayes, and you have reached Coach Hayes Hudl. Got a loaded show for you tonight as we look at Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels coming in a top 10 matchup against Coach Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs in Athens between the hedges. Look forward to a loaded show tonight. Definitely want to see you be a part of the huddle this evening as we break plays down and get after it. We got a loaded show. Stick around. Georgia Sports Autographs is built by collectors for collectors. They know what fans want because they've been in your shoes, hunting for that perfect piece, the right signature, in the right spot. At every signing, Georgia Sports Autographs make sure it's done right, using the proper ink, following best practices, and paying attention to every detail so you end up with a product you'll be proud to display. They've already worked with many of Georgia's top athletes, and their network gives them access to just about anything you can imagine. If you don't see it listed, don't assume it can't be done. Chances are they can get it for you. Georgia Sports Autograph tests themselves with every event, always improving, always delivering for the ultimate addition to your collection. Trust the team that treats every autograph like its own. Georgia Sports Autographs, where every signature tells a story. Again, I'd like to welcome you in. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Georgia Sports Autograph. Sam Mathis and Roger Sutton do a great job with their program. They're constantly trying to make things better for the collector that's out there for authentic signed merch. We've got a private signing coming up this October the 25th, I believe it is. It's going to be in Athens. Looking forward to doing that with them and just enjoying time being around that family and what they do and the productivity that they give their consumer is such a great thing. And I just really enjoy working with them. So all of the merchandise that I've been able to give away as part of my program comes from them. You need to check them out at georgiasportsautographs.com. I know that Roger has been working due diligently to get the website up and running and get it going really well, to be due diligent and as efficient as possible for people who's coming in wanting to look at different kinds of merchandise, different kinds of signed merchandise. And they both do a great job. It was an awesome opportunity this past weekend to join Sam and his wife as part of Autism Awareness, the 10th annual banquet that we got to go to in Roswell. I was really appreciative of him inviting us to that as well, and just enjoyed the atmosphere and enjoyed the time being there for such a great cause. You'll probably see here, as we have up on the screen, we have some stats for Ole Miss, and the Rebels come to town in Athens. They have yet to win. I think the last time they won was in 1996. I think we carry an overall record of 33-13-1 against Ole Miss. But there is something uniquely different, okay? This is not last year. This is obviously not the year before last when we had such a green time and taking care of business at home with them the last time they came here. And as well as the fact of us having the struggles that we had up in Oxford the last time we played them last year. There's a lot to basically digest and break down. But what I wanted to show you is a lot of people are not very aware of the quarterback situation that's at Ole Miss, and that is Trinidad Shambliss. Now, Austin Simmons was supposed to be the main guy, and as you can see, he's no longer the main guy. So if you think about it, Trinidad was actually taken away. He hasn't started every game for for Ole Miss. And even with that, even him not starting has, 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. He has 3 rushing touchdowns. I really don't put him in a +1 category, but Lane Kiffin runs him sometimes in +1 concepts. And I think that's important when you bring that kind of value to the table, very similar to how we use Gunnar Stockton. But, the one thing that he does have the ability to do is that if he gets put in a little bit of chaos with some havoc, he can pull the ball down and extend plays with his legs. And that's something that we necessarily haven't faced yet. And, the other unique thing is that Trinidad Shambliss has yet to throw a football in a visiting opponent's stadium. The first completion, the first attempt that he actually makes in Sanford Stadium will be his first away from home. He has had the luxury of being at home and accumulating his stats of 85 of 130 for just south of 1,300 yards with one interception to 7 touchdowns, along with his 3 rushing touchdowns. If you look at his primary running back, Kewan Lacey is, the guy that they're going to give it to as much as they can. But Lane, he is definitely going to work around that. I think his run game is sort of built off what he does with his extension outside the tackles. He loves to run a lot of misdirection. He loves to run a lot of unbalanced. And Kewan Lacey is someone that benefits from that product. And that's what we saw when I drew the breakdown for LSU. The one thing that I noticed with him is that a lot of his runs were set off misdirection. Now, when I look at the backup for them, Logan Diggs is more of a special type player where he's not necessarily going to be your downhill runner, the guy that's going to be taking a lot of snaps between the tackles, but they will put him in the game when they want speed, especially when he'll go 20 personnel and he'll use Deuce Alexander, number 11, the X receiver, and put him in the backfield with him to run a lot of different misdirections where it looks like speed sweep. He'll pull, and you got Trinidad Shamlis following a guard and an H-back or a guard and a tackle up inside. I think it's very unique that his X, Z, Y, and H are your primary receivers for them. They're leading the team in yardage. There's a very unique similarity between all of them as well. And I find it to be very rewarding when I look at their styles of play of how they get the football to them. I think Shamlis brings a lot of accuracy. I think he sees the ball. I think he sees the field well to start with, not necessarily from the pocket. I think he actually sees the ball better when you get outside and extend it outside the tackle box based on film that I've watched. But there's a lot of unique designs that he has. But if there's one person that he is going to try to get the ball to if he's in the game, is they especially have a guy by the name of Daquan Wright and backup tight end, but basically is more than likely going to be starting. It's kind of like how we do with Lucky and how we do with Delp. And, I just want to make sure that you guys understand the people that we're going to be talking about here very soon. TJ Daughtry is their starting linebacker with the most tackles. Defensively, I know the question is their run defense going to be able to hold up against a team that really wants to establish the run? And then, of course, our question to them is our pass defense going to be something that can slow down Lane Kiffin's passing attack with a running quarterback who has the ability to stem plays with his legs? So, only time will tell as we prepare ourselves going into Sanford Stadium on Saturday for the 3:30 start. I think the biggest question that a lot of people are asking themselves is they're going to, where are we going to be at after the first quarter? Are we going to see the similarities that we've been seeing? Are we going to see an opportunity to get better and see hopefully some more consistency out of the defense and not taking us, almost 2 quarters to get warmed up to play? Only time will tell to see how that happens. But the thing that I'm noticing before I go into the next segment here is that I truly feel that our team is improving every week, and a lot of people don't get that. I've said this once before. There's so much parity now in college football that the days of winning games by 40 points is over. We need to get over that. We are a very spoiled fan base because of what happened in 21 and 22. And unfortunately, there was a paradigm shift within the next couple of years, basically through Carson Beck's 2023 and 2024 season. We saw that happen with those 2 teams that he was at the helm of. And now what we're seeing is a complete change. We're seeing more freshmen play because the rosters are depleted. Coaches are having to spend more time in basically re-recruiting their rosters every year for fear of the transfer portal than they are in what they're getting in their recruiting. So there's a lot of change values that you're having to look at now. And unfortunately, we're not going to see those 40-point blowouts anymore. In fact, we're going to see more games like Tennessee and Auburn. And get ready, we're going to have some type of slobber knocker on Saturday night as well against Ole Miss. There's no doubt about it that that's going to take place. Now, I really do feel that I want to make sure that I do have comms up and working right now. I've only got a few watching at this point in time, but if you do hear me, make sure that I'm assuming that I would have somebody tell me if they didn't hear me on audio to be able to give me a quick note. But still, nonetheless, I'm going to move on, press on going forward. I am changing up a few things. So like I said, I hope that you enjoy the show tonight as we go through this breakdown. So as we look at, to me, first off, I'm looking at their starting offensive line. Okay. Now, what I've noticed from PFF grades, if I take the basic front 3, all right, what I call the triangle, the guards and the center, I look at the left guard, Delano Townsend, the center, Bryson Sanders, and the right guard, Patrick Kudus. All right. Those guys, to me, have the most inconsistency of the 5. Now, to me, if you look at 50 on the right-hand side at tackle, he to me looks like Bo Hewley, a little light in the ass. But I'm going to tell you this, watching him on film, he does a really good job. He's very consistent. He uses his feet. He's a technician. And that's the reason why you don't see him get beat as much, and that he seems to carry himself very well in the game, even though he does look a little light in the ass because he's taller. 61, he's likely to get a 5-yard penalty for a false start, and then he will turn around and go have the mascot in the headlock on the sideline. I mean, he's just that kind of guy. He's rough, he's tough, he's very physical, but he's going to be the guy that we could get into his head a little bit, because over time, I just think he's one of those that's a little undisciplined. But if you look at the inconsistencies, it's definitely going to be coming from your two guards and your center as far as PFF grades are concerned. Now, I'm not a big statistician when it comes to PFF grades. I think everything is built upon the game itself. I'm never going to sit there and say, well, because those three guys have the lowest PFF grades, that's where we should attack. I think that's where we're going to see the most inconsistencies, because if you look at Georgia's offensive line, the PFF grades show the same consistency with Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston. But of course, their sample size is very small, and they've had to grow each game and get better each game, and they've had a lot more miscues because they're basically trying to put the plane together as they crash, more likely, as games go along. So, and I'm getting some feedback here that they can hear me, so I appreciate you guys giving me that feedback. That's important to me as we move forward. But I'm going to tell you this. If you look at number 9, that is where Daquan Wright typically is going to be lined up as well. And I'm going to tell you guys, we're going to have an eye on him at all times, because to me, they utilize him so well. Lane does a good job of hiding him, and it's really hard to hide him because he's a big fella. Got dreadlocks hanging out of the back of his helmet like 61 does right here. And they utilize him a lot. And I'm going to show you in some of the offensive plays how they use him and how they want to go to him. Trinidad has really built a very good, trustworthy system with him. I think he really trusts what he does, and you're going to see why he has built that. And you can say, well, why are we showing against LSU? I think LSU by far is the best team they've played this year. There's no doubt about it. And you look at Nussmeier, who to me has been so inconsistent at quarterback, playing injured, but still, this was a very close ball game, and I think Ole Miss brought everything that LSU wanted. It was a great ball game that Ole Miss ended up winning in the latter half of the game, and finally stood on principles of finishing the game out. I think they won by less than a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get here with a comment. Coach, ready for the breakdown of this game. Think our run game is due for another 200-plus yard game. Defense will have to have great eye discipline this weekend, though. Lacey and Shamlis are a good duo. I think that you see the same thing with what we're going to try to do, and that's, to me, the execution of those two things are going to be very important. When you look at what Lane Kiffin is getting good at doing, to me, he sets up a lot of eye candy to make you undisciplined in your execution of your reads, and he makes you sit for an extra second thinking. And if you think one extra second, that's a guy that's getting open, and he is going to find ways to get guys open. The thing that I see that is probably the hardest thing to understand is that because of us being very pass weary, especially in the first half, seemingly not being able to find those key niches that we need to find where we're in good position, get into third and longs, and create situations where we get off the field. We're not finding ways to get off the field. Against Auburn, it was amazing when I watched this on film against Auburn, how I felt like that we were constantly putting ourselves in a situation of where we were bringing the blitz from. They were replacing, and that seemingly that's where they went. They would throw the ball right there where that guy was leaving from, and that sometimes created a lot of frustration. And what we saw is just a fan watching the game until I saw it and came back to it, that we had a lot of times we were bringing a blitz, and it's somehow coincidentally, crazy luck, whatever it may be, they were throwing right where those guys left from. When I look at it, they're from, let's see, we got Georgia Burr 11, so they kind of like Auburn. I think, honestly, the one thing that makes them a little bit better defensively, I think they're just as stout as Auburn. I think a lot of people give them a hard time saying that they don't do a very good job against the run. Obviously, the game against Washington State last week at home was a complete trap game. It was an 11 o'clock game, basically being played on their home turf against a Pac-12 team made of two teams in the division, and they just weren't ready to play. And they played just well enough to win by a touchdown, I believe is what they ended up winning by. But, guys, this game is going to be something different. it's a different beast of what we're going to see. I think they're very good defensively. I think they're sound. I think they get after the ball carrier. I think they do a great job technique wise. They arrive in a very good technique sound position. They blow stuff up and they create bubbles, and their front does a really good job. Their defensive front does, where I think a lot of people are giving them a lot of grief for the run attacks where they've allowed so many rushing yards against them. I think what they do is you catch them in a situation where they run blitz and they're unsound, and that's the reason why a lot of times that's getting attacked and looking like it's getting exploited. But to me, again, where we need to attack them at is definitely in the center guard combo and that trifecta right there. And we got to hope that our two inside guys that are playing AB gaps are going to have a good day against those interior guys to create some havoc out there. But again, we've still got to make sure that we're watching Daquan Wright, who will be lined up all over the field. Big kid playing the Y position. Okay. Now, from the defensive position, when I sit here and look at their defensive depth chart, there's not necessarily one guy that just stands out to me. Daughtry, their Mike linebacker, is leading the team in tackles, which he should be. To me, typically your strong safety and Mike linebacker should be your leading tacklers on the team that are being assisted by your front four. They have a defensive end, nose tackle, defensive tackle in their buck position, which is the same thing as what we call the jack position. And I think they do a really good job. 51 and 52, Harris and Eccles, to me, do a hell of a job up front. Cam Franklin is a great compliment at defensive end, too. I think they do a great job of getting after it. And, I think they're sound. They use good technique. They get off blocks, and they get to the football. And they certainly did it against LSU, which was highly ironic because all I'd heard all week was the defensive run scheme against other teams, how they've been lacking in that. Well, I'm going to tell you what, they brought it to LSU. LSU hardly ran the football, and when they did, they were around the football. I think LSU might have had 3 to 4 very productive plays running the football. It's just strategically running the football between the tackles. But see what we've got right here. Chase Langford, 6'8" nose tackle is huge for a D-line. Yeah, there is two guys, 51 and 52, like watching them on film, they're hard to move. And 52, to me, the Eccles kid is great technique. There's a couple of plays that I actually have saved that I wanted to show you guys that I think is going to be very important, but towards what they do defensively. Now, if you look at them, they line up in multiple 4-2-5. So you can see the 4-down lineman with your stand-up buck. The stand-up buck is up top. So they got the defensive end down here on the bottom. Okay, and then you got your two inside guys right there, probably lined up as two techniques right now, it looks like. I can't really tell. They could be a 1 and a 3. It's really hard to tell without the tight copy. But 51 and 52 to me do a very good job up front. And again, they run the group behind them here. I see you've got your Sam Backer moving out. He's the guy that's moving out towards the hash right now. So that's going to be your nickel player. And then you've got your cover 4 shell around the top. Now, their defensive coordinator loves to run a lot of zones. So this week, to me, is going to be very important to see how Gunner's going to be able to throw into their zones. They love to run a morph cover 5, where it looks like right now you got a 4 shell with a Sam Backer going out, but they will stack it on this side and end up doing a complement where they'll match, and then they'll man on the backside to the trips. And they do a really good job of their zone techniques. They love to run a lot of zone. Last year, or the year before last, when they were in Athens, they ran more man than what we were expecting them to run, and we exploited them with Ladd and Brock and the whole team that was out there that year in 2023. I don't know what we're going to see this year, because if there's one thing to me that Gunner's had a hard time doing, if he's had time to throw, is layering the ball in zone. So I'm going to be very interested to see what they're going to do to try to exploit that. I would love to be able to see them take advantage of the speed that they're going to bring off the edge, very similar to what Auburn did. So go ahead and be prepared for the fact that you're going to see a lot more screen game. And we've got to basically play the cat and mouse and a lot of chess to see when they're going to bring that edge pressure. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this over, and we're going to look at some plays that I have pulled up here. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you a couple things that I have looked at for the standpoint. Before we jump into it real quick, what I wanted to see is some of my comments that I have here. Is it a defense we can finally get those tight ends used with some catches that's been blocking their ass off? I sure hope so. I think, that's the one thing that I hated to see, is that we missed 3 different tight end throws in that game against Auburn. And that's something that, if there's one thing I want to see Gunner improve on, is layering that throw in zone. Another comment here: LSU O line took a few steps back from last year too, though. I have to agree with that. I would say the LSU's probably wasn't as good as they've been in last year's past, but I mean, when you're playing against high caliber SEC teams, I think this is by far the best team they've played, and I think that's the reason why I wanted to try to make it comparable to what we were going to see for the University of Georgia. You know, GA, I was going to say outside zone is something that is lost in translation in today's time. We don't run as much outside zone because of the fact of how we set up offset to the quarterback. Like you see, you're going to see here in this first play from scrimmage, we don't have a lot of from under center with guys and, the running back in pistol anymore. I would love to be able to see us lined up with a running back behind us in pistol, and you be able to hand the outside zone, or what I call the stretch zone, that's meant to hit off tackle, but yet can be brought back as well. There's a lot of stretch that we're not running anymore. I'd love to see Gunner do with two-back sets, or either bringing a receiver across in motion and running that Q-power read, where you have the ability to read a guy on the in-mantle line of scrimmage, and if he squeezes, you hand it off, and if he sits outside for the lateral, then you follow your counter tray up inside, your guard and H pulling, guard and tackle pulling, or maybe just your guard pulling. But anyhow, I want to share screen real quick. And we're going to do this. I want to get this set up. So we are going to, let me see what I can do here. Y'all pardon me for just 1 second while I get this set up here. I am going to share a screen. And we're going to add this to it. So y'all bear with me for a second. All right, we should have a share screen on now. And I'm going to go with this look down here. Again, I'm trying to make sure that I've got this set up the right way before I start talking, because if I don't, I'm going to be in trouble. Let's see, screen share. So I'm going to have to turn this off if I don't want to do this. Y'all pardon me just a second. Y'all are kind of my beta test here. I've been working on doing this in a lot better fashion here so that I can show you this without having interruptions with it. So hopefully this should work for me right here. And let me pull this up with this. There we go. Now I've got myself where I wanted at. All right. Now, the first thing that I want to show you here is Trinidad's ability to run with a football. Okay. We set up inside. They are actually going to run a sprint draw with him here. And this is something that we've got to be prepared for, especially when you have second, third, and long, and they're really trying to spread us out. They're in a true early set 3-by-1, 10 personnel look right here. Daquan Wright is up there as the number 3 receiver. But this is straight sprint draw. The minute you see the F-back step down in the hole, now he's going to lead through. And this is what you get a lot of times with this. They're going to have to be very due diligent to watch this, because I know that defenses are probably going to spy Trinidad because of his ability to run. But I really don't want to put us in like the Jalen Milroe type deal where we were spying with 2, or even the spy with 1, causing us to take a defender out of the box or stay in the box because you have to spy the quarterback. We've got to be able to create havoc and be able to get to the ball carrier without all this mess that goes up in it. But this is what he has the ability to do, is to scramble and extend plays with his legs and things that are specifically drawn up for him as a +1 quarterback in this case scenario. Next, we've got let's see what we got here on this. This is something that really just makes me scratch my head, because I see this against Georgia a lot. LSU brings pressure off the edge. They make Trinidad have to scramble outside of the pocket on this. And what you're going to get out of this is watch the backside tight end on the drag right here. The backside tight end is on the drag. Okay. He's outside the tackle box, can extend the play with his legs, and then gets his eyes downfield and throws a dot. All right there to his tight end. That's Daquan Wright right there, number 8. Moving next. Now, this is something that Lane, to me, likes to do a lot of. He's going to run a lot of bastard formations. You're going to get trips 3-by-1 over. So you got early, basically early bunch tight over. And what he'll do out of this is he'll run somebody back in motion that can go in motion. So what we'll get out of this right here is you're going to get the Z going back across. fake the jet, and then just hand it off on zone right here. Now they've got about 3 or 4 plays they like to run out of this bunch set over where you've got a bastard formation. So basically, only 3 receivers are eligible on this in this formation. The front guy in the bunch set is covered up. Okay, so the only thing they can do out of this is they'll end up leaving that guy in to block, and they'll run play action out of this off of that zone concept, which they do later in the game. But they like to hand it on the jet right here and read it as well, and then the quarterback will pull off of this and fit up inside off of it as for their spacing purposes. All right, next play. To me, this is the concept that I was talking about with Daquan Wright. They're going to bring their X. This is the backup X who looks like a speedster because they do a lot with him in the backfield and 20 personnel as well. I think, when I was looking at what I saw from Chase Langford, you say rush lanes will be a high priority for the front. I agree with you. If there's one thing that I think we do, even if we don't cause a lot of havoc up front, Chase, we do a great job of maintaining great gap integrity. So that's going to be important that we stay in our lanes so that we don't get those free run throughs on this. But they're going to do a lot with 11. 11 is a speedster. They'll hand it to him on the jet right here. They'll also read this for QB power out of bash and or QB counter tray, and then they'll throw play action out of this. As we definitely be someone that hurts us if we don't, fly to the football and get up in good run fits on jet. Because you can see this is 20 personnel, 2-by-1 set with 2 backs, and you got a receiver in the backfield along with Lacey in the backfield as well. He's lead blocking off of this. They'll do this with him in motion like they did a while ago, and then they'll put him in the backfield. They actually run a counter option off of this as well, where they look like they're running zone, and 11 is the pitch back off of this. So you can see they got the guard and tackle pulling for counter tray. So realistically, this is bash. They're reading that defensive end that's standing up right now, and because he squeezes it down, he hands it off. If that defensive end who's standing up right now up top for LSU were to sit outside on this, quarterback's pulling off of this, and they've got counter tray blocked up front. That's what they're blocking up front. So I love what you have that we've definitely got to honor when he's out there, and we got to have our eyes on him completely. Let's see what we have here in this trips 3-by-1. I know exactly what we've got, and I want you to notice you got down low 3-by-1 set. Okay, you got Daquan Wright by himself. Whoever's going to be on him, if we're in man, it's either got to be the linebackers that are picking him up across the field for the in route, and the corner that's over the top of him making an in call, because they're going to basically, Trinidad's going to find him, man. He's going to cut across on a little mini dig right here. F-back's going to pull out on the angle, make sure they honor it, and that corner just has no time. Trinidad does a good job of looking off the safety with the trip side and then comes back to the dig to Daquan. This was a huge completion for a first down. Guys, if he's by himself on the backside, whether he's nubbed like a tight end like you saw him a while ago on the rollout where he got outside the tackle box, or in this, let's see. Now, they're going to run a lot of screen game as well. This is what Auburn did to us a lot. They brought a lot of edge pressure. LSU's bringing edge, and what neutralizes edge pressure is screen game, especially fast screen. I like what we see here. Something defensively we're going to have to do is come up and make these tackles just like we see LSU trying to do. This is not a jailbreak screen. They're showing split zone action, or actually they're showing ghost power right here with the guard and the H pulling to make it look like we're getting something out of that. I like that. It's kind of an RPO look without a read. So you get the ghost power bluff, and they're going to throw it out on fast. You got 2 for 2, so he's going to take the first threat, and the other one's got to make him right, which he does. That's a good J Long and twice on Sunday. All right. Now, this is the play I was telling you about a while ago. You got 2 backs, so this is 20 personnel. So you got a 2-by-1 set here. And in this case scenario, they're going to use the Deuce Alexander kid as your pitch back. So you got Lacey coming downhill, and they're reading that in just like they would in regular zone. So if 6 squeezes to go tackle him, all right, he's going to pull this, and they're running speed option out the backside with this. This is a very cool play. I love this play, honestly. But because the end kind of sits a little bit, he hands it off to Lacey and lets him stay on the inside zone. And that's one of the few, if you want to call this an explosive, this is one of the few positive plays for Lacey in the run game in the game against LSU. But it's all set up on the fact that he's got another back that if he pulls off this, runs speed option, Now you got quarterback and tailback that you've got to honor here on this. I really backside with it. I hope all the videos are showing up for you here so you can see them. This is the trickery, okay? Coach Kiffin is known for doing some real weird things. We know that more than likely we're going to be dealing with thirds and shorts and fourth and shorts and seeing different ways that they're going to employ to try to convert for first downs. You know, without a doubt, if he's probably on his negative 45 to the 50 on the plus side, if it's fourth and short, he's going for it. He's going to try to figure out ways to see if Georgia's undisciplined on defense to see what they do. But right here, what they're doing is they're doing a check with me at the line of scrimmage. And you'll notice everybody's looking to the line of scrimmage, doing a check with me to the sideline. So what does the defense do when you check with me? Look at all them defenders looking at the sideline to see what we're going to switch to. Okay, you see that they're obviously looking over there. They're not paying attention. They're not ready. And all of a sudden, you just get a quick snap, bam, and you catch them. Look at the guy that's sitting in the 2-eye, the shade off the center. He's sitting right at the top of the Ole Miss sign there. He hadn't even got out of his stance yet. Look at him. He's still in his stance, and the quarterback has the ball already. This is a Lane Kiffin kind of special right here that just blows me away. And that's something we've got to be disciplined with on check with me's at the line of scrimmage. We can't be looking to get the calls right there. All right. Now, this is what I'm talking about on that jet where we're reading it. Look at what you got right here. Again, this is bash counter. You got the guard and the tackle pulling. Now they're, instead of him being as the second back in 20 personnel, he's coming from the number 2 slot position. So they're just going to read him. So the guy sits. So why not give? Now you got everybody out in space blocking. And unfortunately, the only one that gets hurt is Daquan. The guy gets off Daquan a little bit and causes him to bubble, and that's what holds him up. If Daquan stays on his block and keeps him reached, he's got a hole right there to shoot through. Now he's one-on-one with a safety. Okay? So, but again, this is being read right here out of a different formation. If that end sits outside for the stretch sweep, quarterback's pulling that and following his guard and tackle on Q counter. It's the reason why he's definitely in my top 5 quarterbacks for the SEC right now. I agree with comment. Let me pull this up real quick as I get into the next one right here. Chase, what I see from you there, you're saying he's essentially Milroe, but a better passer. I have to kind of agree with that concept. I mean, I think he throws the ball very well. That's what makes him an effective quarterback, honestly, overall. I think he does a really good job of seeing the field. He extends plays with his legs, but he throws the ball hella accurate. And he did a lot of good things as this game went on against LSU that kept the drives alive, kept the offense on the field, and created a lot of problems for LSU's defense. This is the other play that he got to Lacey. But you can see here, he's faking the jet to the guy that we've had a lot of speedster stuff with. I think that's number 11, to Deuce Alexander. Nope, that's number 19. That's his Z back right there. But again, look at the formation. It's that trips early tied over bastard set where you've got the uncovered guy or the covered guy there at the tight end up top. So he's blocking. So they're basically running a pin and pull. Looks like they got the jet sweep and they just pitch out on the speed sweep to him right here. So this is just a different way to get the ball out on a speed sweep. But because of the misdirection, this gives late play design call from Coach Kiffin. Now, on defense, something I wanted to show you. I don't know if y'all remember or not. Remember the Prince? I can't pronounce his last name. Umadian, I think, something similar to that, from Florida. He plays for Ole Miss. And I watched them on defense, and a lot of people have really given them a hard time on defense. I don't see it. I see them getting after the ball. They're very sound in zone. They understand how to attack their zones, find their people in zones, and they close to the football when the ball is thrown. But I want you to watch the defensive end down here on this left tackle. Moving forward, next play here. Let me put a stop pause on this right here. Kirby and Lane know each other so well. Who has the advantage? I sit there and think to myself, when you give me that question, just because coaches know one another, everybody thinks it's like some kind of secretive affair when you have like a team, because you know who they are and what they do, that you're going to be able to play better because you know what they are and what they do. It all comes down to the Joes and the execution of those Joes for what they do. Now, Kirby and Lane are very good friends, and I'm sure the little rib punches that Lane took at Kirby this week, in the pressers that everybody wants to make a big deal, that's not anything that hadn't been exchanged already in group text to one another. But when it comes down to the game, there's a huge respect that they have for one another, but there's no doubt they want to beat one another too. I've coached against coaches that I worked with before prior to, and the one thing that there's competition level when you're on the field, you want to see yourself beat that other team so bad. And, especially against a coach that you have a huge respect for. It's very important to understand that. This play right here, again, what I wanted to show you is out on the screen game. This is the fast screen. They're going to jailbreak out on this as well. I think we're going to have some high efficiency to it because this is one thing that they like to bring. You'll see them bringing edge pressure. If you bring edge pressure like that in your Ms. and Joes versus the X's and O's, no doubt about it. All right. So I'm just trying to show you some things that I would hope that we're going to look at offensively as well against these guys. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm glad if we don't see it against Ole Miss. A lot of decent things here that I'm trying to show you, just to show you the effectiveness of what they do. Okay. This is something, the reason why Garrett Nussmeier blows me away, because they're dropping into that cover 5 zone that I told you about. They really love to run this cover 5 zone right here. And Garrett Nussmeier, they got the dig with a shallow, and he's trying to, dig with the seam, the dig coming underneath the seam. He's trying to throw that dig route into, I think, 4 people. Okay? Take what you got right here. Look at the underneath right here, the shallow coming across and the quick out. Throw that right there and live to fight another day. Why force that into 4 guys right there? Guys, you're making Ole Miss look good. Funny enough, that's their first. A terrible decision by Garrett to throw that football there. Okay. I sit here and watch them run just base zone. I tell you, I watch that's the reason why I'm putting this in slow motion for you guys. Watch their defensive line move down the line of scrimmage. It's unbelievable how well they move. Both 51 and 52 right here. 51 and 52 doing a great job. 52 does a phenomenal job right here moving down the line of scrimmage. I don't understand why there's this misnomer right now that they don't have a good run defense. I don't see it, especially against a good team that has a decent offensive line. May not be as good as they've been in years past, but I'm going to tell you right now, that's low. Look at that extension with his legs staying low against his guard and then moving across and making that tackle right there, man. That's phenomenal work by 52. That's Eccles right there making that play. So good stuff from their defensive line. Got a few more here I want to show you. Again, trying to show you all the different things that they like to do. The one thing I like when they drop into this cover, I think they're in the cover 5 again right here. Yeah, they're in the cover 5. They're matching in cover 5. Watch them be able to come up off of this as Garrett gets away. They are rushing with 5 guys right here. All right, but they've got everything covered up across the middle, and they end up getting to the quarterback. So, get after the quarterback, man. A lot of good things. A lot of good things. Moving forward. This is something that I like them doing as well, is that we're going to have to definitely utilize outside the tackle box on the fast screen. Again, this is not jailbreak screen. This is fast screen. So you got 2 over 2, and you got to make the third, make the safety miss, which he does right here. If he don't step out of bounds, this is a touchdown. But this is how you do it as well when it comes to their gameplay on Saturday. All right. On this right here, we got a speed sweep outside. The reason why I say everybody's talking about the run defense by Ole Miss, man, I watch what they're doing. They're not being pushed off the line of scrimmage. 51 is coming off and giving a little spin off a double team. You got the linebacker firing through the hole. Look at 4 fighting his ass off to stay outside. You've got run fits coming downhill by your safeties and by your corners. And all the defensive linemen are moving down, staying sound in their gap. There's just nowhere to run, even though you're running this into the short side of the field. Again, I don't know what the misnomer is about them saying that the run defense is poor, but I see good run fits against a good, offense from a DC position. That's what you want to see, my guy. That's what you want to see. This is the play that I was telling you about where they're in a cover 5 zone. They go cover 5 zone. They bring simulated pressure with 4-man rush. Watch everybody find their guy. See the F-back coming out of the backfield on the check down. Watch this linebacker attack. He don't think. He doesn't do anything but react and come up and make the tackle right here. Everybody else is covered up. Look at the zone defense. You got the guy on the corner. 9 sees it just a tad bit late. Gets back behind that. That's the only little small window of weakness there that you have. 9 sees it too late. All right, if he could have saw that, he definitely has that open. But I just love when you're DC and you see that kind of work right there. It just definitely makes you feel warm and fuzzy. It's no doubt. Again, got everything covered up. I'm really impressed with what they do, and this is something that Gunner's going to have to understand as well. They cover up the zones very good here. Okay, Nussmeier has nowhere to throw in this cover 5 concept right here. They got the middle defender and the safety running over the top of the deep guy. Areas. All right, this is something I wanted to show you here that they're going to do against our zone. Is they're going to run a lot of fire and ice blitz concepts. I want you to watch the front. They're anticipating zone. Okay, they're actually going to run gap scheme here. This is Ghost Trey because you got the guard and the tight end pulling. But watch the front. What the front's trying to do is basically take all the linemen and move with them, and the linebackers are moving opposite to that. So what I would have right here is I would have a Liz call to the tight end, and I would call fire. All right, fire means that we're going to fire our defensive linemen across the gap, slanting across the gap to occupy the offensive line, and the linebackers are going to sit for the automatic cutback. Because when you fire the guys across the offensive line, that makes for an automatic cutback lane on zone and gap scheme, and you have your linebackers sitting for that. And they do a really good job of attacking right here. 6 and 26 coming up, taking on the pullers, fitting up in there with a safety help. You know, it's a pretty decent play right here. I mean, you think about it, I think we're right on the minus 45, and they get 5 yards out of this. But I still like the – and let's see. I think lastly, I wanted to show you this here. This is 52. I'm really high on 52. When I see good play, man, I'm going to call it out. I want you to watch 52. He's right to the left of the center. I want you to watch what he does right here, getting hands on with the center block back because the guard's pulling and the tight end's pulling. Watch him shuck him, pull him to the ground, get over the top of where he should be at because he knows if he's getting down, the ball's going the other way. So he shucks him, pulls him. 51's getting penetration on basically a double team trying to take on right there. And he fits up in the gap and makes the play right here on the gap scheme. Guys, that's solid football from your defensive line right there. That's the reason why I wanted to show you this. That's why 52 and 51 impressed me so much in the run game against us. And we're going to have to be on all of our P's and Q's when it comes to blocking this front. Because if we don't, you know, like I said, I'm going to be amazed to see the fight that we're going to be putting in the trenches on Saturday night. So I want to move on to the next frame here and pull this back over. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me on that. That was something that I wanted to show you to give you just a little bit of an understanding both offensively and defensively. I wanted to show you LSU because I think it's important that we see a good football team that they've played. But you got Trinidad Shamlis coming to Athens, coming to Sanford Stadium, who has yet to throw a football in another team stadium. So I'm very interested to see how he's going to handle the pressure of all of that in the process of what we're going to bring to them. Now, the initial report that we got from the injuries, Georgia showing out as Ethan Barber, Talon Taylor. Kyron Jones was one new added to the list just yesterday. Malachi Tolliver and Thomas Blackshear. Go ahead and prepare yourself that we're going to be dealing with probably Ja'Cory Thomas. I wouldn't doubt if we probably move someone at corner into the star position. Wouldn't doubt if we see Janelle Aguero be moved to maybe the strong safety position, possibly. I don't know. We'll just have to see what they do with those rotations at the safety position. But as of right now, this could change. But what you'll notice is the probable is Juan Gasson and Ernest Green. And guys, we're a turning style right now of offensive linemen. We'll talk about them in a second. But Chauncey Bowens, you don't see on there. You know, and I know he's had limited carries against Auburn. Dwight Phillips has had limited carries, honestly, since I would even say all the way back to the Tennessee game. Had such great potential in the first couple of ball games, and all of a sudden we play Tennessee, and we just don't see him anymore. But the emergence of Nate Frazier and after his fumble issues and what he's been dealing with, if Chauncey's still struggling with the leg issue, I think we're going to see a combination of Josh McRae, Nate Frazier, maybe see a little bit of Dwight Phillips. Not sure about Roderick Robinson. Do we get a Roderick Robinson sighting in all this process as well? Now, before I move on to the offensive line side, I do want to take some questions here that I have in the chat. First off, thank you for being in the chat. I appreciate you giving me a thumbs up, like this thing, and I like for the opportunity to share with you with what I do at Coach Hayes Hudl. And I think that again, being here with me on the Thursday night on the last third leg of the show is really important as well. Question, maybe Zion Branch gets some play time in the game. Really, I don't know who they're going to, personnel-wise, what they're going to do. I see a rotation of they're going to move someone out to the corner. I think if there's anybody, Dalen Everett might move into the star position and let DeMello and Ellis Robinson play those two positions with Ja'Cory Thomas. But I would love to see Janelle Aguero maybe move around with this process as well. I would love to see what he could do at the strong safety position. I've been wanting to see that. I've actually wanted to see this rotation, and that is Dalen and Ellis Robinson at corners, move DeMello Jones to the star, and let Janelle Aguero play the strong safety position. Because the one thing that Kyron Jones does a very good job, he's a good tackler. But to me, his pass defense is where he hurts. Ja'Cory, to me, is a better pass defender, but doesn't tackle as well. So it's kind of like one has something versus the other. And, I'd really like to see what happens with that. And this might be the game you see it now with Kyron Jones being out now due to the lower leg injury. Let me see what we got here. Mike Bobo is an absolute curse on UGA. Defense is elite at stopping screens and draws because that's all they see in practice from Bobo. Scout team is irrelevant. I'm always going to have some Bobo haters in here. I tell you what, brother, I want you to give me a idea from all the games that we've played so far offensively this year and tell me what has Mike Bobo not done for you that's allowed us to do some good things offensively. Have you watched any film this year? Do you see why that we run the screen game the way we have and how effective it has been against edge pressure, how we've established a good run team this year? Because that's something Coach Smart said that he wanted to do and project at the beginning of the year. And that's probably the reason why our run defense is so stout, because we've been working on stopping the run in practice and working against pass schemes. When you got young kids, see, this is to me a fan who doesn't understand the new paradigm of what coaching is nowadays and what you've got to deal with. You're still living in the years of, hey, we went 2021 and 2022 undefeated elite defenses because we were 3 stacked with 5 stars all the way across the board. We don't have that anymore. There's too much parity. That's the reason why you're seeing more freshmen playing more than ever. And that's the reason why you're going to continue to see the trial by fire, and you're going to see these teams learning as they go and getting better. To me, the quality of a program is how good you get each game and the things that you work on to get better at each game. If you're not getting better each game, that's poor on you and poor on your football team. But I see improvement that's taking place, and we're grinding against these teams because we are watching these kids grow up in front of us. There's a lot of kids. This is just we're halfway through the season, guys, and half of our defense has only seen the 6 games that they've played under their belt. And we're watching the different components of how growth takes place. You look at Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover. Think where we're at right now offensively on the offensive line if we don't have those 2 true freshmen playing. If we don't have the depth from Elijah Griffin as a true freshman playing as well. There's so many factors that go into play. And everybody wants these 40-0 drubbings now, and they're not going to happen. They're not going to. Go ahead and prepare yourself as a fan going forward. If we have a 40-0 drubbing, that's an outlier. Okay. We're playing a very poor football team. We executed at the highest level with very few misnomers, and the other team wasn't very good. Go ahead and expect when we're playing teams like Auburn's, Ole Miss's, Florida's, all the teams that we've got left to play, we're going to be in very similar atmospheres and very similar ball games. What I want to see is that the execution level of what we're trying to do gets higher and higher each game. Okay? That's all you can ask for as a fan. That's all you can ask for as a coach. That's all you can ask for in your team. Okay? Let me see here. Brother, I had numerous Willie Martinez defenders saying the same thing. Same thing. I don't know what to tell you. People like you don't make any sense. You're either someone that really don't understand the game at all. You're just a true fan of the fans, Fans are going to fan. You don't have an understanding of what football is, even in your mindset. There's not this coherent understanding that you've got 18 to 22-year-olds going out there busting their ass every day, and you're trying to figure out ways to exploit your offense to make it better so that you can out-execute the defense and have less penalties and execute in all three phases of the game. There's not anything that you can go past when you watch what a coach does, because you can sit at the comfort of your couch and hindsight everything and sit there and go, well, you should have done this. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? You don't have that opportunity when you're up in the box and you've got 40 seconds and you're sitting there thinking, okay, on this next play, I want to be able to do this, see what we do out of this formation, see how they line up to it. So when we come back to it on second and short, third and short later, I want to run it, but I want to go to the number 3 receiver instead of the number 2 receiver. There's so much chess that's taking place. And all these Bobo haters and people that are out there, I've watched too much film this year to not see that we don't have guys running open and that we don't have the right parts to the table. It's just a matter of understanding the key and lock eventually is just going to happen. And all of a sudden we see this high level of execution, and it's going to happen as we continually grow through this year. And all of a sudden you're going to sit there and think to yourself, where's this team been? This team has been here the entire time, but their growth is going to continue to work, and the youth that they have is going to catch up with the maturity level of what the coaching staff want to execute, and you're going to see some great things from this football team as we move forward. Are there going to be headaches? Yes. Is there going to be some frustrations? Yes. Is there going to be some letdowns? Yes. But I would much rather see this team than what I watched any of last year, because this team loves to be out there. I think they fight for one another. I think they love one another. I think shoulder to shoulder when they line up every Saturday, they want to get after it and do what's best for their coaching staff and for their community and for the University of Georgia. And they don't give a crap what that fan thinks about Mike Bobo, because they're going to go out and do their best with what they've got, and they're going to continue to work to get better every game. So I'm going to sit here and listen, and you continue to talk. You can throw out stats at me all day long. I'm not even going to entertain you past that. If you're going to sit in here and just try to trash a coach, I'm not going to sit there. It's just like trying to trash a player. I don't think you watch ball. I don't think you understand ball. You don't watch it enough to understand what you got to do to win ball games. And unfortunately, they're not all going to be the nice, pretty ones of 40-0 that we're used to seeing. All right. Like the national championship game against TCU. I definitely don't care. I would have coached in a game like we played against Auburn last week and had a hell of a lot more fun than even a game that you coach in like a game against TCU 3 years ago. You know why? Because you watch kids grow up in front of you. You see them take the next step. You see them take their coaching from week last, and they get better. All right. So I'm not going to get off on my soapbox, and I'm certainly not going to let you sit there and continue to troll me for this entertainment. And I'm not going to give you any more entertainment for you. But going forward, with that being said, I'm really interested to see offensively what we're going to do on the offensive line this week, because if Juan Gaston is not full, Monroe Freeling is still on a busted wheel. And, guys, he played a hell of a game last week against Auburn. He was probably 75, 80% max, and had to come in for, Bo Hughley, because Bo Hughley wasn't getting it done. And this week we're still dealing with a Micah Morris issue. I mean, he's still busted up, playing injured. Monroe's playing injured. Juan Gaston's playing injured. Really, the only two that that are doing well for themselves are Dontrell Glover and, Drew Bobo. So I'm really curious to see if Ernest Green comes back, because he's both probable along with Juan Gaston. I'm really curious who's going to be our starting 5 on Saturday. Right now, I would have to say that if Juan Gaston is good enough to go, he will be at right tackle. But we'll probably see a combination of Bo Hughley and Ernest Green at the other tackle position if Juan Gaston can go. If Juan Gaston can't go, we might see Ernest Green and Bo Hughley at the tackle positions, along with Dontrell Glover at that right guard position. But I've been very pleased with what I've seen from those guys up front and what they continue to do to grow each week. Their pass pro's gotten more effective. I don't know if you got a chance to see my previous breakdown, but against Auburn, Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston had an X stunt against them earlier in the year where they completely messed it up against Tennessee. It looked god-awful. It was ugly. All of a sudden against Auburn, they looked like two seniors who had been there 4 years picking up an X stunt that was as mature of a play that I could ever see from two true freshmen who this time last year were getting ready for Thanksgiving break as we moved into November while they were still in high school. We've been very blessed to have these two guys grow up very quickly in front of us, and we're going to continue to see them grow as we move forward. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, something I wanted to let you guys know as I entertain some questions other than people that want to hate on Mike Bobo. is I have joined the Patreon community. My plays that I break down weekly from previous weeks and from previous Saturdays, and then of course what I'm doing leading up to the week's play. So what we did against Auburn this past week, what we've done against Ole Miss, and what we're going to be hopefully doing against Ole Miss on Saturday to take the win to them, is now going to be part of my Patreon account. This basically is a free sign up. I will have previews of all my plays in the Patreon, but it also is a subscribe. And for $5, you have the ability to have a monthly subscription to all of my breakdowns that I do, X's and O's, all my drawings and everything. If you've never seen my show or never been a part of my social media, you can find me at Coach Hayes Hudl on all my social media outlets. I'm heavy on YouTube as well as Twitter. X, as most of you know now, is a social media outlet. That's where I put a lot of my plays. So if you're interested in seeing my plays and how I do things, you're more than welcome to check out Twitter as well, because that's where I do a lot of my breakdowns. But Patreon is going to be my main hub as I move forward. I'm 2 years old now, growing into the platform of what I am at Coach Hayes Hudl. I do have a website as well, CoachHayesHudl.com. Hudl spelled Hudl. Just like the software that teams use for film breakdown. And I would love for you to be a part of my Patreon hub because it's growing exponentially. I just installed it this past Sunday and would love for you to take the time to scan the QR code or to look at Coach Hayes Hudl /Patreon and have the opportunity to come in and see all the breakdowns that I do. Being partnered with Georgia Sports Autographs, I also give you the opportunity to win free merch. So the people who sign up for the memberships of the $5 a month, I'll be putting you in a drawing for free signed autographed UGA merchandise. And you can find that on my website. If you're interested to see the things that you could possibly win, you can go to CoachHayesHudl.com, scroll to the bottom of the screen where Georgia Sports Autographs is offered, and be able to see all the different things that we offer and the giveaways that have happened. I've had some awesome winners over the last 2 months. I've given a lot of good free giveaways and would love for you to be a part of the huddle with me. So now that I'm going to go over here and check all this out here, I want to give some shout outs to some people who actually are trying to give some quality insight to me here. Happy 2-year birthday, Coach. I appreciate that. Like I said, when I first started this, just to give some background, something that I really thought was important to me that I entered into this industry. I am an educator of 26 years. I coached football, high school football, for over 20 years. And I had the opportunity to coach a lot of good kids. Lad McConkey, the McConkey kids at North Murray. I've coached a lot, and I've coached against a lot of quality kids like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. I've had the opportunity to coach a lot of quality football games and a lot of quality opportunities, playoffs involved, and being a part of that has been really cool. I've seen the ups and downs of what it takes to go through the frustrational years of teams that you think were better than they were, and you don't, reach the potential that you have. I've had teams that have overreached their potential when you never thought in your wildest dreams you were going to win 7 ball games and you go 9-1 and make the playoffs. I've seen those opportunities out there. So I really appreciate the ability to, just experience this with you guys, because my mantra is connecting fans to the fundamentals of football. And I certainly want to do that for you. With that being said, you can continue to talk there, guy. I don't know what your deal is, honestly. You can continue to talk, but you're not going to assuage what I'm thinking here. I do appreciate Trey Anastasio. Let's hit that like button, y'all. Great stuff, Coach. I appreciate that as well. I wanted to go back to some of these questions that I have. Are 1 and 8 and 5 on the field together a lot? Seems like they would be tough to defend at wide receiver, maybe best lineup. I agree with you on that. London Humphreys is also another one that needs to be out there as well. But because we use so much tight end personnel for blocking, you're going to see probably always at least 11 personnel on the field with Delp or Lucky or both in 12 personnel. So to have all 3 of them on the field would mean that you would have to take one of your tight ends off the field, which is highly likable. I have no problem with having Noah Kobe and Zachariah Branch out there at the same time. So, but anyhow, let's see. Dr. Morbius and his opinions are facts, which is really amazing. I'm not the problem I don't have with the Nick guy is that haters are going to hate because they don't understand. They live in the past and they want to sit there and think to themselves because of what he did during the Rick years and that kind of stuff. What he's seeing this year, because we have parity in college football. The paradigm has shifted. We're not seeing the 3 deep 5-star kids anymore. More freshmen are playing. There's not as much depth now. So you're going to see those cracks sort of in the wall. And that's the reason why we're watching some of the discouraging components to it. While as a fan, you're frustrated because we can't figure out a way to stop the offense on the first 2 or 3 series, and we have to grow through the game and come back and make halftime adjustments. But that's also the beauty of college football too. And that's something we're watching, because I see it's just like I looked at Gunnar Stockton, for example. There were 3 things I wanted to see him improve against Auburn, and he improved on 2 of those. He sees down the field when he got scrambled out of the pocket. I started seeing him being able to find people pre-snap. His pre-snap cog was so much better, knowing where he wanted to go the football before he was even snapped. I think the biggest thing he's got to work on is when we get that play action and we get those tight ends over the middle of the field, we got to connect. And he underthrew 2 of them and overthrew 1. And that's something he's got to work on. And I think Ole Miss is going to give him that opportunity because they play a ton of zone, a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 5, and they're going to bring 4 and 5 man pressure, and we got to be able to block them with 5 and be able to make throws down the field that way. So it's the same thing with our offensive line. Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover, screwing up an X stunt on the weak side away from the mic check call. And then all of a sudden, week 6 against Auburn, that's got a hell of a defensive front doing a lot of good things. And they pick it up like 2 mature juniors or seniors out there at guard and tackle. It looked like, Tate Ratledge and Amarius Mims picking it up. It was beautiful. And as a coach, you appreciate that because everybody lives in that moment of, what did you do for me yesterday? I look at the total package, the totality of what's going on. I don't look at the stats of 2 years ago, even last year. I don't even look at where our stat efficiency is against the pass versus the run. All I know is I can look out there on film and I can see where their deficiencies are at. I can see where their strengths are at, and I'm going to try to exploit their weaknesses. I'm going to try to line up in a lot of things that we want to run, but they don't know what's coming because you're lining up in different schemes trying to run the same plays. So I really appreciate those people who have stayed with me for the time being. I got one from 225 girl. Coach Gunnar sometimes gets impatient, doesn't consistently read his progressions, might not see or hit open receivers. If the pass pro on the online improve, will Gunnar improve also? I think he will. And, the one thing I think from Gunnar that I would love to see, especially on play action, is the play if you watch to Noah Thomas. If you go back and watch the Auburn game, for example, there is a play with against where he completes the ball to Noah Thomas on the explosive. It's split zone play action. I want you to watch the depth he gets on that play. He's learning off the play action to get depth so that he can step up into the pocket to gain that extra second, because the rule for thumb for a quarterback, it always is when you do 7-on-7s and things like that, when you have no defensive pass rush, is a 4-second window. In college football, you want to get it out pretty much in about 3 seconds. But if you go 4 seconds, that means your offensive line is doing a hell of a job because there's just athletic people across the board on defensive lines now. So a 3 to 4 second window is all you've got. But if you learn how to use your pocket and step up in the pocket, you have the ability to gain that extra half a second or a second to see something come open if you didn't prior to it. So to answer your question, if the pass pro in 5-man protection, 6-man protection get better, where we keep a tight end in, all right, I think Gunnar's consistency is going to get a hell of a lot better. And unfortunately, everybody's kind of got this ticking time bomb with Gunnar. He's got 7.5 games under his belt. So very small sample size. I don't think anybody realizes he had to play in 2 of the most hostile environments a starting quarterback would have to play under, in Neyland Stadium of Tennessee, in Jordan-Hare. I don't know why they call it Jordan-Hare. It's spelled like Jordan. Jordan-Hare Stadium at Auburn. And he comes out with a dub in both of those games. Was it pretty? No. But I'll take a dub any day of the week and twice on Sunday, no matter how you play, because you can always get better and improve and perfect your craft. And that's something that we've got to see going forward from all of our guys. Let me look at this question here. Is Auburn the best defense we'll play in regular season? That's hard to say because right now I think if you look at the rest of the teams that we've got left to play in Texas, Charlotte won't be there, Georgia Tech. Golly bum, who am I missing? There's somebody else. There's a couple teams I'm missing. I don't know, Florida. I would have to say that Ole Miss and Auburn are probably 2 of the higher end defenses that we will play by the end of the year. Depending on, Texas's defense is not too bad, but they're not what they were last year either. But right now, that's the beauty of college football. I don't think you can really look at any team right now that we've watched, of course, half of a season now. It's hard to believe we are halfway through the college football season. But there's not just one team out there that you're going to say is going to dominate the other team on Saturday. We don't have a clue who's going to dominate the other team because we just don't know. That's the beauty of what I call parity in college football. You hear that word all the time, but that's what it is. That's why you're seeing a lot of these different games being played the way they are, because there's not that consistency that we're used to seeing across the board because of what the NIL has done to move players around and what the transfer portal has done. We don't have the depth that we used to have, and none of those teams have that depth. So think about if Georgia doesn't have that depth, think about these other teams out there that are in Power 4 football right now. So that's the reason why. With that being said, I wanted to go back to something real quick too. I think best thing for Gunner was throwing the interception versus Kentucky. He let it rip, threw a really bad pass, and the sun came up the next day. Let her rip, Gunner. There's no doubt about it. And in that case scenario, that was what I call a safe interception. They had led up to a 14-0 lead, and I think they wanted to see them push the ball down the field. It was a poor read on his part because he actually had Delp running on the rail route down the sideline. I wish he'd have thrown it there, but you can't fault him for trying to force that in there. But that just comes to, them basically giving him an open container there and saying, hey, just fling it, let it go. See what we get right here. But as time goes on, that's the one thing I've enjoyed from him is that he does not seem to make a lot of mistakes, and his conservativeness is what a lot of people are struggling with. But I think I would rather see, the ball not being turned over and him being, efficient with his throws than to just sling it around and throw interception after interception after interception. Bill, I appreciate you, brother. I'm glad that Patrick loved his jersey. I appreciate you guys tuning in every week. I appreciate your patronage, and I appreciate your support. Thank you. Appreciate that. 225 girl. There really isn't no dominant SEC team or in the other conferences. We beat up on each other week in and week out, but the other conferences really don't. That's a very good point. And that's what the typical fan doesn't see. They don't see this paradigm shift that we have gone into now, really in the last 2 years. 2024 and 2025, this paradigm shift has taken place where there's no longer that depth, and there's more freshmen going to be playing than we've ever seen before. There is going to be growing pains with that. There's going to be frustrations with that because kids are learning as they're playing, and we're just not going to see the polished set that we want to see out of our football team. What you do want to see is those young bucks grow up over a course of 12 ball games. And what I've seen so far in 6 ball games, I think about things like, where Ella Medozi's coming, Josh Horton, the transfer portal kid from Miami, Joseph Jonah, I've seen good things from him. Not to mention what Justin Williams is doing at linebacker. Janelle Aguero's playing a very steady, consistent year. Where's KJ Bolden? Nobody really hears from him. He just seems to be that quiet dude just out there doing his job every week for the most part. CJ Allen showed up in a big way against Auburn. He was also another kid that's been kind of quiet. It's nice to see DeMello Jones grow up. Ellis Robinson's always going to be under the spotlight because you're a corner that's playing one-on-one 90% of the game. So 50-50 balls, that's why they call them 50-50. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. What you want to see consistently from him is for him to grow up. And he's continually growing up, because I see a lot of good things from him and what he did against Auburn, against Cam Coleman. And he's going to learn to get better in his zone reads as well. But that comes with time. It's just going to slow down as time goes on. But you're right, though. There's not a dominant team in the SEC. You can look across the board right now and really say, is there a true dominant SEC team out there right now? I don't think there is. So, again, thank you for all of you tuning in with me tonight. Again, and I don't, the Nick guy that's in here, you have your right to your opinion, and you don't fire me up because your opinion is different from mine. You fire me up because I think you have a very irrational view of college football. And of course, Coach Bobo, you're going to hate him no matter what he does. If we go out and score 40 plus points against Ole Miss, and we have a great game offensively, and we do a lot of good things, and fans are going to have that nice warm fuzzy feeling afterwards, or we go out and score 20, y'all are going to find something wrong with him. And that's just people that are going to find ways to hate. That's like me being on the sideline and having 10 dads around me telling me what to do while I'm out there trying to coach their son on the football field. You're just going to have people that just don't understand it. Because, in all my years of coaching, I never had a dad come up to me and tell me how much their kids sucked. Okay? They all have this higher belief in what they do. And to me, I'm not going to sit there and try to embellish something that's not there. I go on facts. I watch film. I see what Coach Bobo does. I see what he does to scheme people open. He's got a quarterback that's learning every week to get better. He's got good receivers. He's got a line trying to work to get better in pass pro. And as we continue to put those pieces of the cog and the mechanism together, we're going to see better plays from our offense, and we're going to see a higher execution level, and we're going to see more points scored, and we're going to be talking about good things as the year goes on. That's a sign of a great team, and I really do think we're headed in that way. So I can't thank you guys enough tonight for being here with me. I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going to get off the air here. I've been on for about an hour and 15 minutes. You think Ole Miss D tough enough because of their D-line, that their best group? I think they do a good job across the board. I think they sit in a lot of zone to make you throw stuff underneath, and they basically pressure you to try to throw it into tight zone windows like Nussmeier did, and they try to get after you with their pass rush. And there's something about their pass rush to me that makes them look really special. That's the reason why I think if you're Georgia, we're going to probably see a game that goes by a little bit faster, because we're going to try to run the ball at them. I think we're going to run the ball right at them and try to establish a good run game against these guys and try to put them in situations where they're going to bring people down to try to stop the run. And then that's when we're going to play action out of that and start dinking and dunking them outside with jailbreak screens, fast screens, quick play action, two receiver route type play action stuff. To be effective against them, because if they don't and they sit back like they did against LSU, where they're dropping 7, dropping 8 in zone and bringing 3 and 4 man pressure and still getting pressure to the quarterback, it could be a long day for Georgia if we're not blocking that up front very well. Lastly, film don't lie. Kirby's been preaching forever. Got to find a way to get better. I mean, I feel for Kirby because I think he really likes the chemistry of this team better than last year. You can tell by the way he talks about them. But there's also that mental frustration you have because you want to see your team improve week in and week out and get better from the things that you watch on film, and you work with those kids in the film room, and you're saying, okay, right here, think about where you want to go with this, man. You got the wide side of the field. You've got 3/2. Let's come back to the other side right here. Let's go to the short side. We've got the numbers we want over here. Those things are being talked about in the film room. And then all of a sudden we call that play. I say UGA calls that play, and all of a sudden it gets executed. Ellis Robinson gets understood that you can't dive on that skinny post. You've got help on the inside with KJ. You've got to bracket that and stay over the top of the rail route that's coming, by the whole player underneath, and got to be over the top of that. And all of a sudden you see him executed, and it happens. So, those are the things you want to see from a coaching staff. Those are the things I want to see as a previous coach and as a fan. And I definitely appreciate all of you who have stayed with me for all 3 of the segments tonight that I've done for you. If you're just now tuning in, you can catch this podcast later on. I'll put it on all my podcast feeds on Apple and Spotify. You can catch the actual YouTube show later. But also think about joining the Patreon. I would really love you to be a part of that hub as we move forward, because all of my breakdowns, my full breakdowns, X's and O's, drawing with the teleprompter over the top of the screen, all that good stuff where you can understand what's going on in the game of football, and what I try to do in connecting fans to the fundamentals of football is what I love to do. Would love for you to be a part of that community, but I am thankful that you are part of my community tonight. Thank you for staying with me for this length of time as we went through this breakdown tonight. Can't wait for Saturday. I will be at the ball game. Would love to see you there. If you happen to be there, I'm down on Lumpkin Street right in front of the Baptist Student Union with the Morris Hall tailgate. Drop by and say hi to me if you get a chance. Would love to chat with you and be able to hopefully celebrate a win on Saturday night against Ole Miss as they come to town to Sanford Stadium in Athens and play that game between the hedges. Looking forward to a great game, looking forward to the breakdown, and looking to, hopefully coming out of that with another win, and a quality win between 2 top 10 teams as Ole Miss comes in, I think, at number 5. We're at number 9, and it's going to be a great top 10 matchup on Saturday. All right. Appreciate your time and efforts with me tonight. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for all of your support and what you do going forward. And look forward to seeing you guys again real soon. Hopefully talking about that dub on Monday in the post-reaction show against Ole Miss. Until then, God bless and go Dogs.